Is it beneficial to know the stages of insight before one goes through them, or should one wait until one arrives at one stage to learn how to work through them? Yeah, I don't think it's proper to, in an ideal sense, it's not proper to, in an ideal setting, it's not proper to know anything about the stages of knowledge. It's important to leave that up to your teacher who has gone through them himself, or at the very least has a very thorough knowledge of them and the theory surrounding them, and allow them to guide you and use them as a benchmark to see your progress. A beginner meditator will generally not have a very clear progress through the stages of knowledge. So they will go through them and eventually will get through them, but the first time through it won't be so clear, and it gets clearer as they go through them again and again. And so the best way to, in an ideal setting where you have a teacher, the best thing is to slowly learn about them from one course to the next, and have the teacher slowly give you more and more information about them until it's matched by your observations through the practice. So as you learn more about the stages of knowledge through your practice of them, it's beneficial to get some knowledge about them, to know that when you're on the right track and when you're not on the right track, and in a sense to mark your progress through the stages. Now, if you know about the stages in advance, it can actually be a major hindrance to your practice. It can even stop you from making it through the stages because of your expectation, because of your distraction, worry and paranoia, and your doubt about whether you're actually going to attain them, and so on. Doubt about whether it's actually the true progress that leads to nibbana, whether the mind actually goes through those. The nice thing, like with Nagasena, he's been sitting in and watching. So he was asking, "But does it happen for everyone?" I said, "Well, watch and see." And so he's been watching the meditator. We have one meditator now watching, and I'm very careful. He can vouch for the fact that I'm not giving any kind of hints or signals, or hypnotizing or brainwashing the meditator into saying this or saying that, and just asking what's going on. And it's very clear, you can see the progression, that in fact, at least for the meditator that he's seen, they are going through these stages, and for all the meditators that I've seen, it does occur that way. So it should happen naturally, and you should get to the point where you're in this position where you're learning how to teach before you really start to examine the course of the knowledges, because they're much more useful for a teacher to be clear whether the meditator is on the right path, and if the signs are right, then the teacher can rest content that the meditator is doing the right thing. Now, if the meditator's not experiencing them, then the teacher will be able to point out they're doing this or doing that, and that's the reason why. Like, if they're not experiencing the stages of knowledge clearly, then at the same time you will be clearly able to see that they are clinging to something. They're clinging to pleasant states, or they're clinging to unpleasant states. They're clinging to views, they're clinging to this, clinging to that. And as soon as they let go of those, they will naturally progress through the stages of knowledge without any prompting. So it's for the teacher much more for the teacher to gauge, at least in the beginning, to gauge the student's knowledge. Now, why I said in an ideal setting, because for many people this isn't an option. So you have to kind of find your way like a bodhisattva through the stages of knowledge yourself. And in that case, the stages of knowledge aren't really enough. You need to know just about everything that's in the Tipitaka, and you have to have a very strong background in theory and in a specific tradition. and in the theory behind a specific tradition. For example, if you follow the Mahasi Sayadaw tradition, the tradition that we follow, this interpretation or this understanding of the Buddha's teaching, and this particular meditation method, then you have to get a strong background in this training and this practice in order to go through it on your own. But whether you'll actually make it through is a whole other issue. So some teachers will say that it will actually stop you if you know them in advance. If you've read about them and then come to do a course, it will actually block you and prevent you from progressing through the stages. So definitely not something to worry about. And if you don't have a teacher, I think it wouldn't be so good to focus on the stages. It's much better to focus on general theory behind giving up and looking at what the Buddha said and looking at the Buddha's teaching, because you will never teach someone the stages of knowledge. You will never give that as a discourse and something that is practical for a meditator. Will be an encouragement and the things that the Buddha gave in the suttas. The Buddha never gave any talks on the stages of knowledge. They're much more of a technical reference for teachers and advanced students. So it's never recommended by any teacher that these should be given out. So even if you don't have a teacher, try to stick to the suttas and get what you can out of the meditation books. And if I recommend books that were written by the Mahasi Sayadaw, these books that are on vipassana meditation, excellent guides. There's many of them that are excellent guides for beginner meditators. And after some time, you might want to slowly read something about the stages of knowledge. But certainly not worth focusing your effort on until you get to an advanced stage. Until you've gone through them, actually.